Hello and welcome to Representative Rick Larsen's Telephone Town Hall. My name is Pam Larkin and I am the Communications Director for Representative Larsen. I will be moderating tonight's Town Hall. Thank you for taking the time to join us and we hope you find this call informative. Representative Larsen will be taking as many questions from community members as he possibly can in the time that we have. If you have a question to ask Representative Larsen, you can press *3 on your phone keypad at any time, and you will be placed in line to speak with a member of our staff. Staff will take down your name, where you are from, and a summary of your question. The next time you hear your name, you will be live on the call, and you will be able to ask Representative Larsen your question. We are also streaming this town hall on Instagram and Facebook, so you can leave your question in the comments on the live stream as well, and our staff members will pass it along. As you can imagine, we will receive a lot of questions during tonight's event, so if we are not able to address your question, please leave a voicemail after the event or send an email to rick.larsen@mail.house.gov. Again, if you have any questions throughout the town hall, please press *3 on your keypad or leave a comment on the social media live stream. If you would like to sign up for Representative Larsen's e-newsletter, you can press *6. Now, I will turn the phone over to Representative Larsen.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining me. Now, before I begin answering questions, I want to spend a little time giving you an update on the work that is happening in Congress and my work as your advocate in Washington State. So I want to start with what's most important. Prices are up and the economy is down. President Trump's reckless trade wars, the stupid tariff policies, and tax cuts for the richest Americans are really proving disastrous for hardworking middle-class Americans that I represent. In August, proof of this happened in August with the Bureau of Labor Statistics issuing the worst jobs report in the past 15 years and reporting the biggest jump in grocery prices in the last 3 years. Nationwide, electricity costs are 6.2 higher than in the same month in 2024. So at a time when families are already struggling with high prices and a weaker job market, now the Republicans in Congress are threatening to shut down the government. The shutdown would be yet another blow to the economy courtesy of the Trump administration. Funding for the federal government runs out tomorrow night at midnight. Now, all year, my Republican colleagues have been bragging about controlling the White House, the House, and the Senate. They call it the trifecta. They control the levers of government, and now they are shutting it down. Trump and the Republicans in Congress are going all in on a government funding plan that will result in 80,000 Washingtonians losing their health insurance. Last week, instead of working with Democrats to avoid the shutdown, the president canceled his meeting with Democratic leaders and walked away from the negotiating table. And today, Trump met with Democratic leaders and refused to fund the government or to avoid a healthcare crisis. My Democratic colleagues in the House and I won't support a government funding bill that creates and continues the healthcare crisis. My Republican colleagues in Congress, some of whom I work with on a lot of things, want to allow essential healthcare tax credits to expire, making healthcare even less affordable and creating immense uncertainty in the healthcare insurance market. Now, if these credits expire, more than 25,000 people in Northwest Washington State will see average net premium costs increase by 60%, 60%. Everyone who has a health plan through the Washington Health Benefits Exchange will see their rates increase 21%. Now, allowing these credits to expire is a devastating continuation of the healthcare crisis that the Trump administration started with the Big Ugly Law. Back in July, the Big Ugly Law made the largest cuts in Medicaid in its history, which in the next few years will take healthcare away from more than 328,000 people in Washington State. Employers are bracing for the largest annual increase in healthcare costs in 15 years, and mass layoffs are hitting local hospitals really hard. The Trump administration and congressional Republicans have pushed the healthcare system to the brink, and now, by shutting the government down, they will kick the healthcare system off a cliff. We can't let that happen, and I can't be party to that on your behalf. So if they want to shut the government down, thousands of Northwest Washington state workers will be furloughed. Local farms may stop receiving disaster relief dollars. Active duty members of the military may be required to report for duty but not receive paychecks. The Trump administration is also threatening to permanently lay off massive numbers of federal employees if a shutdown occurs, effectively using hardworking civil servants with families to support, using them as political pawns and undercutting life-saving government services. More layoffs will further weaken the economy and make it harder for Americans to access critical service that the federal government provides to you. So my Republican colleagues are inflicting more pain on the people I represent right now, so they can double down on the health care crisis of their own making. So I, along with many other Democrats, are fighting to lower the cost of health care and the cost of living for the people that I represent. Now, Republicans in Congress must come to the negotiating table and work with Democrats to reverse the damage that's been done. Let's all keep fighting and keep voting to make health care affordable, make it accessible, get our economy back on track. And right now, you might guess by the background, I am in Washington, D.C., but last month, in fact, even last week, I was home in Washington State. And I spent August traveling all over the communities in my district, directly talking to people I represent. According to my staff, I drove over 2,000 miles to visit 22 towns, had 68 meetings with local leaders, community nonprofits, and working families. I visited and met with community members at the Etua Stabilization Facility in Oak Harbor, the Coopville School District, the Tulalip Tribe's Quilceda Creek Counseling, Community Health Centers in Snohomish County, the Opportunity Council in Bellingham, the Skagit County Senior Activity Center, the Smith Island Estuary Restoration Project, Citizens Against Domestic Abuse, the Blaine School District, Whatcom Council on Aging, the new VA clinic in Oak Harbor, the Social Security Administration Field Office in Everett, Crescent Harbor Elementary School, the YMCA's Camp Casey, and public libraries in Snohomish, Island, Whatcom, and San Juan counties, just to name a few. And this past week, I held 5 roundtables for veterans in my communities to hear from them about the challenges they're facing. Now, keep in mind, in 2022, I helped pass the largest expansion of VA benefits in history. It's essential, therefore, that the VA has enough staff to process new claims. But because of the Trump administration, there will be 30,000 fewer employees at the VA in the next couple of days. And I don't support the staff reduction. I'll keep fighting to ensure the VA has the staffing necessary to keep medical facilities open, wait times short, and service at the highest quality. My office did invite, as we've done in the past, local federal VA representatives to come to these roundtables that I held last week. But they told my team they weren't allowed to send representatives to these events, which is unfortunate because we have a very positive working relationship with our local federal VA representatives. They do a great job. So my office will be sending a report to VA Secretary Doug Collins outlining what we've heard from veterans at these events and my disappointment that the local VA reps were not allowed to hear directly from the people that they serve. I also want to say that I appreciate all the calls, emails, voicemails, and letters that my office is receiving from members of the community. Since January 20th of this year, my office has received more than twice as many messages as compared to the same time last year. 109,819 messages received January to September in 2024, and the same period this year, 267,269 messages. My office has sent out over twice as many responses compared to the same time last year, 85,547 messages compared to this year, 179,065 messages. So hearing your personal stories helps me understand the damage that this administration is doing to our communities and helps me fight for you in D.C. Now, please know I appreciate each person who's taken the time to reach out to my office, and we're working very hard to respond, and I appreciate folks joining us on this telephone town hall and the live stream on Instagram and Facebook. So with that, I will turn it back over to Pam Larsen with one more reminder before I start with answering your questions. Thanks.
Representative Larsen. If you are listening on your phone and you have a question, feel free to press *3 at any time, or press *6 to sign up for Representative Larsen's e-newsletter, which is a great way to stay informed. If you're watching the live stream on Facebook or Instagram, you can leave your questions in the comments below. And with that, we are going to go to our first question from Belinda in Freeland. Belinda, you can ask the representative your question now. Belinda, do we have you on the phone? All right, I'm not sure we can reach Belinda in Freeland, but the question that she asked is, what can the community do to support Democrats and stand strong during a shutdown?
Thanks for the question, Belinda. I think it's not just, my answer isn't just for Democrats. It's for anybody in my district who believes that a shutdown is going to be bad for continuing health care, bad for the economy, and bad for the people we represent. So this isn't just a message to Democrats, even though I am one. This is a message to everybody in my district. I think it's very important to understand the impacts of these shutdowns. Again, I think our women and men who serve in our military are going to need support, because during a shutdown, they won't receive a paycheck, but they're going to have to report for duty. And this includes the women and men in our Coast Guard. So I think it's going to be important to support them. I think it's going to be important to support our small businesses. There are small businesses in the district who are working with groups that are helping them get loans from the Small Business Administration, but the SBA is going to have to shut down. So I think it's going to be important that we continue to support our small businesses. I think the shutdown is going to have a huge impact on food assistance for hungry kids. So think about what you can do to support local food banks during this time, when maybe food stamps might get cut off, or support for local food banks might get short shrift. Think of the homes in rural areas, people using the Department of Agriculture's loan programs to purchase homes in rural areas. You got to think of those people. I think it's really important, first off, that we support the people in our community. The second thing I would really want to emphasize is that this government shutdown that the Republicans are bringing upon us ends up doubling down on the health care crisis that started with the Big Ugly Law. The Big Ugly Law made huge cuts to Medicaid, and now the shutdown is preventing us from the one opportunity we have to take a strong vote to continue the tax credits that our working families are using to purchase health care insurance through the exchanges. About 25,000 people in my district alone. And so those are the kinds of things. Also, you should let us know. Our office is going to stay open. My staff are deemed essential, but we're going to still be doing our best, answering your phone calls, helping people out as best we can, given the fact that federal agencies might be closed. Some of them will be closed, the ones that we try to contact to help out people in our district. But my staff's going to continue to show up to work on your behalf in order to provide the best service that we can, given that sometimes the folks that we need to talk to at the federal level in the agencies aren't going to be answering the phones because they won't be there to work. Thanks, Pam. And thank you, Belinda, for the question. Pam?
Thank you, Congressman Larsen. Our next question comes from Terry, who is watching on Facebook. Terry asks, will Social Security checks continue if the government shuts down?
Thank you, Terry. I want to assure people that shutdown will not impact Social Security benefit payments, but benefit verifications will cease, meaning new recipients may see delays in processing their claims. So staff furloughs at the Social Security Administration may also cause delays in customer service and any appeals. So where benefit payments will continue, if you're just now turning 62 to 70, which are the age range in which you're eligible to start participating in Social Security, you might get caught in that band of people who won't be able to get your benefit, your application processed. If you're appealing a Social Security consideration about your benefits, very possible that will be delayed. And if you're calling into Social Security for customer service help, it's very likely there'll be longer wait times, or we're not quite sure yet what Social Security is going to do. There'll be anyone there to answer your call. So it's a mixed bag. If you're in Social Security right now and you don't have any problems with your benefits, you're not seeking to appeal or anything, your benefit payment will continue. But that isn't everybody in Social Security. In fact, there are a lot of young people who are on Social Security because of disability insurance. So it's not just older folks. It could be folks from any age range because of the eligibility for certain payments out of Social Security. And we'll be watching that closely. If you have a problem, please call my district office, and we'll be sure the phone number for that is available to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. Our next question comes from Ronald, who is watching the live stream online, and he asks, why not support a clean bill to keep the government open and then deal with other issues separately?
That is an absolutely fair question, and it has an absolutely fair answer. What we want to do is to ensure there's a permanent extension of these tax credits to help families purchase health care insurance through the health care benefits exchange. The problem that we face is in some states, those insurance premium quotes, those rates, get set in stone tomorrow. I'm sorry, on Wednesday, in 2 days. And so for those states, it is going to be a huge problem, and some of those rates will be locked in for a full year in some of those states. And so the tax credit it may be approved later, but it won't apply to those folks for a full year. So they're going to get, frankly, they're going to get stiff for a full year. In our state, I understand the rates are going to get locked in on November 1st. Now, we have a process to go back and to apply the tax credits, but some states don't have that. So if you're looking at our state, it's still going to be 25,000 people are going to see their rates go up 60%, at least 60%. But in other states, it's supposed to be locked in. Now, we don't get a choice in Congress of doing something for one state but not for other states. So we have to act now to extend these tax credits, and we want them permanently extended to extend these tax credits as states are beginning to do their insurance rate and locking in insurance rates through the health benefit exchange. So that's the reason why we are fighting so hard on this. And the timeline that's being discussed to extend the continuing resolution, and I wouldn't call it clean in any way, shape, or form, because it isn't a clean CR, continuing resolution. But the timeline they're talking about is to November 21st. So even Washington State has November 1st as a deadline, and some states have October 1st. And so you can see why it's necessary to act now on this issue as opposed to later, and that's why Democrats are holding firm on this. And keep in mind, Republicans all year, I've been in D.C. on your behalf, all year have been bragging about the trifecta, the White House, the Senate, the House of Representatives, and they control all these, all the chambers, both chambers in the White House, and so they have control, and they've been bragging about having control, and yet they are unable themselves to pass a budget. That's not on Democrats. They are saying they control government. So it really is on them if the government shuts down. And so that's kind of the context for this. It's again, absolutely fair question, and I think that's a fair answer. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. Our next question comes from Julie in Mount Vernon. Julie, you are live with Representative Larsen.
Hi, Representative Larsen. Thanks for taking my question. So here's my question. If the Democrats agree to Elizabeth Warren's recommended compromise to fund health care, and then the Democrats will vote for the Republicans' budget. If we as Democrats agree to that budget to get that health care for people, what are the compromises that we will be agreeing to?
Thank you for the question, Julie. Unfortunately, I'm not aware of what Senator Warren from Massachusetts has proposed. And the Senate votes tomorrow on the funding bill, and so I'll let them sort through how they're going to approach that over in the Senate, and I'll listen to the folks over here in the House about what we're willing to take. Fundamentally, we are looking for a permanent extension of the enhanced tax credits that help middle-class families purchase health care insurance through what we call the Health Benefit Exchange. In Washington State, it's the Washington State Health Benefit Exchange, different names in different states. I also don't know if Senator Warren has the only idea in the Senate. I apologize. I can't speak to what she has proposed, but what our position in the House has been, and I understand the Democratic leader in the Senate, Mr. Schumer, is also on board with this, a permanent extension of the tax credits for purchasing through the Health Benefit Exchange to help middle-class families, including the $25,000 in my district. But also, I can tell you that I'm never one to negotiate on Instagram or Facebook Live or on a telephone town hall, but appreciate you bringing it up, and all my staff take a look at what Senator Warren has proposed. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you, Congressman. Our next question comes from Amber, who is watching online, and she says, if there is a government shutdown, what comes next?
Thank you, Amber. First off, everyone heard that question. If there's a government shutdown, what comes next? Well, members of Congress will still be working in their districts. I certainly will be hearing from people in my district about the impacts, and we'll be communicating about what those impacts are. But it doesn't mean that the House and the Senate and the White House will stop negotiating, and I think that's important to keep in mind. There may be a very brief period of time where the House, the Senate, and the White House take a bit of a breather, but honestly, I think that the White House is feeling some pressure on this because this shutdown is going to make put healthcare more at risk in this country because of the lack of any action to reverse the cuts from the big ugly law that's taking place in Medicaid, and the lack of any action on the tax credits. Now, what comes next as well? We will have a frequently asked question sheet that folks will be able to access. We'll put it up on our website so that people kind of understand what the impacts will be. The Postal Service will continue unimpacted, as of, for instance. The Pell Grants and federal student loans can continue to be obligated to make disbursements, but only as long as there's money available for that. The department staff needed to carry that out and support those functions, though, will be significantly reduced. There will be an impact to you all who are on student loans. TSA officers and air traffic control are considered essential, so that's good news. But I mentioned the problems in Social Security. Benefits will continue, but if you're signing up for Social Security or even appeals in Social Security, you will be in fact impacted. The other thing is what I'm going to need to know is to hear directly from you about the impacts that the shutdown is having on you personally. And we will want to hear from you directly as well. We have the North Cascades National Park in the district, and along with other national parks. will mostly be closed. Admission gates will be locked. Those with entry points that have accessibility, they'll have minimal services available to them. And if you're going to go to the national parks, please exercise caution. There won't be anyone there to help you if you get into a problem there. In the event of a prolonged shutdown, funding for SNAP benefits may run out. And women, infant, children funding to help for health care and food assistance for prenatal and postnatal women. That will quickly run out of funding as well. So the problem is it's a mixed bag of impacts, but we're going to need to hear from you all. But I've been in Congress 24 and a half years or so. I've been through several shutdowns, and there's not one every year, but I've never been through a shutdown that's been good, and that's unfortunate. So please let us know. But we'll have a frequently asked question page up on my website, which will be operating, and so you'll be able to access information there. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. Our next question comes from Dolores in Blaine. Dolores, you are live with Representative Larsen.
Well, hi. Thank you for taking my call. And I've listened to what you said, and Representative Rick Larsen. But one of the things that I'm really concerned about is just not me. Nobody really understands what it is that you're fighting for. And I'm talking about how this is going to affect the people individually. I myself have Medicare, and I'm not worried about me, but I'm worried about when you say that the Opportunity Council is not going to work. It affects the poor, and it affects people who can't afford to pay insurance. But I'm not hearing any of the emotional devastation that's going to happen to a lot of people that don't really understand why you're fighting so hard for the and are willing to shut down the government in order to get these things. It's not coming through to me on an emotional level. There's just so much information.
Thanks, Dolores. Thank you, Dolores. Dolores, thank you for your question. Appreciate it. And I can tell you in Whatcom County, 50% of the kids that were born in Whatcom County in 2023 were born into families that use Medicaid as their primary health care insurance. 60% of the kids born in Skagit County in 2023 were born into families that use Medicaid as their primary health care insurance. So when you look at the impacts of the big ugly law, this isn't about the poor at all. This is about your friends and your neighbors. People you know. Maybe you don't know their health insurance plan, but you will know their health insurance plan very soon as these cuts kick in. As well, again, with the 25,000 or so people in my district who will be paying 60% or more in terms of the premium insurance increase because of the lack of these tax credits, you'll soon find out. No one talks about what health care plans they have, but we're going to find out very soon the health care plans that people have, because they're going to be talking about how unaffordable their health care plans are. And we're going to hear more and more from folks in small business. I'm hearing from a lot of folks in small business right now who are suffering under the tariffs, the Trump tariffs, because we live so close to the border. These tariffs are having a huge impact on small businesses who are unable to pass on the rising cost of goods, which is why grocery prices are staying stubbornly high. They're not coming down. Or gas prices, energy prices nationwide up 6.2%, where gas prices are staying stubbornly high because of the tariffs, because there's tariffs on energy coming in from Canada and from other places. So it's really, I've been around the district, and Dolores, maybe not on this call, but if you were able to attend any of my town halls, and I've done telephone town halls, I've done live town halls, I've done the veterans roundtables throughout my district, I'm hearing from people who are being impacted in a very, very personal way. And we've heard from 600 to 700 people in August alone about what the cuts to Medicaid are going to mean to them, and what the lack of the tax credit is going to mean to them. And so, I'd love to have you attend one of these so you can see what it's like in person, see what I'm like in person. If I'm not that emotive, if it doesn't look like I'm emotive on Facebook or Instagram, I'm not sure how I'm going to answer that question for you. I know we are very busy here in this office and in the district office, hearing directly from people and hearing their stories so that we can act on their stories. Thanks for the question. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Congressman. Our next question is from Phil in Anacortes. Phil, you are online with Representative Larsen.
Okay, thank you. I will try to get a place where there's less interference. Let me know if it's going through. I have a question for Representative Larsen, and that is, why are all the admirals and generals coming to Washington tomorrow?
Thanks for the question, and let me back it up for folks who aren't aware, so there's a little bit of context on this. Is that all right, Phil? Can I do that for you? Yeah. Okay. So let me do that. Late last week, the Secretary of Defense, ordered 800 or so generals and admirals from all over the world, U.S. generals and admirals, to come to a meeting tomorrow in Quantico, Virginia, just south of Washington, D.C. It turns out, and there are a lot of questions about it. What is happening? Why is this happening? Is he going to fire them all? Is he going to fire a few? What's going to happen? I'm not privy to what he's going to do. It sounds like this is sort of a pep talk about what Secretary Hegseth calls the warrior ethos. Not something that I fully understand what he wants to talk about. I was on the Armed Services Committee for 22 years, and I never met someone in the military who believed they needed someone to tell them what the warrior ethos is or what it meant to be a warfighter on behalf of the United States. And so I'm as curious as the next person about what is going to happen. I will also say that the wisdom of calling together every one-star admiral, one-star general up to the four-star level into one place at one time is the wisdom of doing that does not rank on the scale of 1 to 10 at a 10 or even at a 1. It is generally unwise from a security perspective to do this. So I don't know why it's so necessary for Hegseth to do this and pull these folks in to hear him give a lecture on what he believes the warrior ethos is. Meanwhile, there are hot spots around the world where our military is located, and we need the leadership there and not in Virginia. So again, there's a lot of confusion about this. I, for one, certainly will be watching the situation in order to ensure that these admirals and generals get back to where they're supposed to be, working on behalf of the women and men in our military and the women and men of the United States.
Thank you, Congressman Larsen. Our next question comes from Jamie, who is watching on Facebook. Your emails say you will help us with federal agency problems. How do we make that happen, please?
Yeah, sure, Jamie. So individually, we can help folks by your call into our office. So individuals can call in. I have a constituent advocate. If you have a problem with a federal agency, you're not hearing from people. They're asking for like a benefit that you received and they want it back, and you don't think they're right. If we're trying to track down a passport, if there's an immigration issue, we have a constituent advocate in the office who can help you navigate the federal agency. And we're I think right now we have 150 or so open cases where we're helping folks. I expect it, frankly, to get more because of the shutdown, if the shutdown does occur. And so that's certainly one way. The second thing, and I tell people all the time, is I can't know about every problem, but I can know about problems if you let us know. And it's really important that you sometimes be the eyes and ears. I can think of in the last 3 or 4 years, we had Ferndale post office delivery issues. And when I hear from 10 people about one issue in one town, that's like hearing from 1,000 people, like something wrong is happening. But you need to let us know because we're not delivering your mail for you, and we're not receiving your mail. So that's why it's also important that we hear from you because we can figure out if there's something systemic going on. In this case, in Ferndale, there was, and we were able to intervene with the post office and get something figured out. There was a washout of a very popular hiking road out towards Mount Baker, and we heard from a lot of people who were using that road, but the washout prevented them from driving up, and so we worked with the Forest Service to get that fixed. But again, if we're not hearing from you, then we can't know everything that's going on. So it's important. That's why, and the second reason why it's important to hear from you. I'd also say that on legislation, especially if we're dealing with the possible shutdown, hearing from you is very important. I tell my staff all the time that the second worst thing than hearing from people, and I say that's a bad thing, but hearing from a lot of people and we're unable to get back to you in time, I don't like that, but that is a problem. But something that's worse than that is actually hearing from nobody. If we hear from nobody, then it's like, is something wrong out there, but they're not talking to us, or it just underscores why it's important that you let us know in the office through a phone call, through an email, what is important to you, including a vote on legislation or a bill that you want to see us support. It does matter that you do call. It doesn't matter that you do contact the office. I get a weekly update of the mail and the messages that we hear each week and how far ahead or behind we are as well in getting messages out back to people, because it's that important to me that we're getting back to you. So it's very critical that you all, I hope that you all own that and contact the office. Thanks.
Thank you, Congressman. Our next question comes from Christine in Bellingham. Christine, you are live with Congressman Larsen.
Hello. I have a question about, sorry.
Hello. Hello, Matt.
Hi. I have a question about Community Health Plan of Washington, or Apple Health. And I understand that it's going to be cut as well. I'm just wondering by how much and when it's going to happen.
Yeah, that's a great question, and we will take that for a follow-up and get back to people. But Apple Health is the brand name of the Medicaid program in Washington State. So that's the Medicaid insurance program in Washington State. And so Community Health Plan is one of the groups that offers Apple Health as part of an insurance plan. There are a few others as well. And so what I can get back to you with details if you let me do that. But also I would note that this is exactly the challenge we're going to be facing because between the enhanced tax credits for people buying plans through the health benefit exchange and because of Medicaid cuts, you're going to see groups like Community Health Plan and some of these other companies that are offering Apple Health plans very likely pull back on what they're going to be able to offer people through their health insurance plans. And so we're still monitoring that. But again, healthcare systems in our state are already making plans for the Medicaid cuts, even though the way the big ugly law was passed, these Medicaid cuts don't go into effect until next year. But these hospitals and other healthcare systems need to start planning for that. So you're already starting to see cuts take place because they know that money won't be there. And that's That's what groups like Community Health Plan are having to anticipate how many dollars might be available. In addition to that, there were changes to eligibility requirements, including that if you're on Medicaid, you have to kind of re-qualify every 6 months now instead of every year. That is going to that will require millions of dollars in every state to devote to this re-qualification for every 6 months instead of every 12 months. Dollars that are not coming from the federal government to help states like Washington and other states to do this. And so that money is going to get sucked out of the system from providing direct service, providing healthcare insurance to you all, if you're on Apple Health, and into administration. I didn't think that if you cut Medicaid, you're going to actually increase how much money goes into bureaucracy, but that is in fact what the Republican cuts will end up doing. I think that's backwards. That's why I don't support it. But I think that's some context to your specific question, because I don't have a specific answer to it. But that's some context to it. And my staff has got the notes on your question, and we'll do our level best to get back to you with accurate information on that question. Thanks.
Thank you, Congressman Larsen. As a reminder, this is an interactive forum. Today we have one survey question for the folks who have called in, and that is, where in Northwest Washington State are you calling from? If you are calling in from Snohomish County, please press 1. If you are calling in from Whatcom County, please press 2. If you are calling in from Skagit County, please press 3. If you are calling in from San Juan County, please press 4. And if you are calling in from Island County, please press 5. Thank you for responding. As a reminder, you can press *3 on your keypad at any time to get in the queue to ask a question. A member of our staff will collect your question, and Representative Larsen will answer as many as he can during this town hall. Again, you can press *3 on your keypad at any time to get in queue to ask a question. Or you can leave your question in the comments of the Instagram or Facebook live stream. Also, for those of you that would like to join the Representative's e-newsletter and are participating by phone, you can press *6 on your telephone keypad, and a member of our team will add you to our list. I also want to encourage everyone to follow Representative Larsen on Facebook with the username Representative Rick Larsen, and on Instagram, where his username is @RepRickLarsen, to stay up to date on his work for Northwest Washington State. Our next caller is Pamela from Edmond. Pamela, you are live with Congressman Larsen.
Thank you. My question is twofold, and both involve Trump. When you made your introduction, Representative Larsen, and you said what happened with the meeting today, my phone was not getting very good connection, so I missed what happened at that meeting with the Democratic leaders. And the second, my understanding of the shutdown is that he is the only one that can get us out of it. Is that correct?
Thank you, Pamela, for the questions. Yeah, so for everybody who missed that, there was a meeting today with the Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic leader in the House, Chuck Schumer, the Democratic leader in the Senate, John Thune, the Republican leader in the Senate, and Mike Johnson, the Speaker, Republican leader in the House of Representatives, with the President at the White House. And the end result of that meeting today, I will say, it did not end with any decisions made about negotiating a way out of a potential shutdown. That now all it is, it doesn't mean that talks aren't going on. In fact, I was with a lot of other people with Leader Jeffries tonight, and he indicated he'll be talking again with Speaker Johnson a little later tonight about where things sit. And the Senate itself votes tomorrow, probably sometime in the early afternoon Washington State time, on the bill to continue funding the government. So it again, it's not that things are over, and honestly, to me, it didn't sound like the talks at the White House ended with acrimony. They just ended without a resolution. So again, but we have to prepare for impacts of the shutdown regardless. And I'm sorry, the second question, Pamela from Edmonds, if you're still on, was what? Okay. Sorry about that. I didn't write that down. And so if you could maybe come back to it, and Pam Larkin will go to the next one, we'll come back to it.
Thank you, Representative Larsen. Our next question comes from Lauren, who is watching on Instagram. She asks, what are you doing to address gun reform?
Thanks, Lauren. I appreciate it. For me, having a strong stance for gun safety is incredibly important in my district. We've had, over the last 10 to 15 years, several mass shooting incidents, which the FBI defines as 4 or more deaths in a shooting. And as well, we've seen shootings as recently as this weekend as well around the country. So gun safety is incredible. I'm very proud to have voted for the first gun safety legislation and gun safety reform legislation that we had passed in Congress in about 20 years, and that happened a couple of years ago. I'm very proud of that. There's still work to do. Banning semi-automatic weapons continues to be a priority of mine. Banning ghost guns, or the ability to 3D print these guns, we need to ban that as well. We need to be sure our schools are safe, and for schools to make a choice to ensure that there's a safe and secure environment when they make capital improvements to the schools, so that students can go to school in a safe environment. That's part of protecting kids at school. But again, it's a holistic approach, to gun safety. There are several other important items, like closing the Charleston loophole is important. It has to do with how long someone's information is in a database, so that law enforcement understands, and people who are selling guns understand who they're selling to a little bit more clear. This comes from the Charlton, South Carolina church shooting that took place several years ago. We're still trying to fix that. So I have a very clear, multifaceted approach to gun safety and gun safety reform, and we're not done. It's very difficult in this environment right now to get gun safety legislation passed, but that doesn't mean we won't keep trying here in the U.S. House and trying to hold the administration accountable to enforcing the gun safety laws that we do have, rather than undermining them.
Thank you, Congressman Larsen. Our next caller is Nancy in Bellingham. Nancy, you are live with Congressman Larsen.
Thank you. And thank you, Representative, and for everything that you do. My question is, if you have any insight as to whether Washington State or any of our cities or counties are going to be targeted for Trump to send military force into.
Thank you, Nancy. I don't have any insight into that at all. The president, I won't say it's random, because it isn't random. He's picking cities where he believes it's politically advantageous. Frankly, it's all politics, as opposed to necessary. His most recent announcement that 200 National Guards folks will be in Portland, we've sent to Portland, is one more example of him trying to sort of pick a fight, if you will, with the political leadership of a large city. I don't doubt that he will try to do this with Seattle, frankly. But again, I do think it's important that we focus on trying to make our cities as safe as possible. And in fact, we know that violent crimes as an absolute number are dropping around the country, and they're dropping in our largest cities, and that's great news. Meanwhile, at the same time Trump is sending National Guards people into these cities where crime is dropping, he's also proposing budgets that cut law enforcement funding. I'm going to say it again so everyone, it's really clear what's happening. At the same time Trump is sending National Guards people to cities where crime rates are already dropping, he's proposing budgets that cut federal, state, and local law enforcement funding. Remember, keep in mind, local law enforcement has access to federal dollars in a variety of ways, and he's cutting those dollars. He's actually, again, moving backwards on funding for law enforcement as opposed to promoting funding for local law enforcement. I, for one, think it's extremely, incredibly important to support our local law enforcement in the fight against fentanyl, and I've been working very hard to help our local drug task forces in Skagit, in Snohomish, and Whatcom to get federal dollars so that these women and men in local law enforcement who work undercover in an attempt to hold accountable the people who are bringing these dangerous drugs into our community, they have the support that they need. And then these undercover detectives work to identify the networks that are bringing these drugs into our communities, and then they work with state and federal to go after these networks. It's extremely important that we support our local law enforcement in this work. And we can do that while also supporting our local nonprofit healthcare communities, our local treatment providers, the folks who are running recovery houses and recovery spots for people who are addicted to fentanyl or meth or any of these other drugs, so that these people have the support they need to be able to return to their communities and, importantly, return to their families. And so, again, I know I'm kind of going far afield here to answer your question, but it really does underscore at the same time the president is trying to score points politically by, quote unquote, fighting crime by sending National Guards people in. Let's keep in mind, these cities are actually have crime rates that have dropped. At the same time, the president is cutting help to state and local law enforcement. There's a bigger and broader debate as well to be had about this. I don't think this is a very effective role for our National Guard. But these are women and men who are being sent to this, ordered to these places. And so I hope that at least, because they're being deployed, that they're getting credit for that deployment, and they're getting the appropriate hazard pay that they ought to be getting, because they're following orders. But again, I think that the other picture of this is about what is most effective in fighting crime, and what the president is doing is not effective at all.
Thank you, Congressman. Our next question comes from Ed in Coopville. Ed, you are live with Representative Larsen.
Hello, Representative Larsen.
Hi, Ed.
My question relates directly to what's going on in both Ukraine and Gaza, where civilians, especially in Gaza, but as well as in Ukraine, are being basically murdered either by Russia and Ukraine or the Israeli government in Gaza. And I'm wondering if, from your point of view, the Democratic people in Congress can do anything to help resolve both of these situations.
Thanks, Ed. That's a great question. I do think that the answer requires me to separate the two. They very much have something in common, and you described it well. Civilians are being targeted, and it is in war. It is always wrong to target civilians. Had the Israeli government stayed focused on Hamas, a known terrorist organization, that would have been one thing. But the Israeli government has been targeting civilians. The U.S. the U.S. government has not been strong enough in pushing back against the Israeli government and Benjamin Netanyahu, the prime minister. And my top priority is to continue to push this administration to secure a ceasefire, get humanitarian aid into Gaza. The president just announced something today. I guess it's a 20-point plan. That's as much as I know about it. I haven't had an opportunity because I've been focused on this very important domestic issue about the potential government shutdown. I haven't had an opportunity to sift through that, what the president's proposing. But I do think that if there's any sniff that Israel is going to be taking over Gaza, I don't think that's right. I think we need to continue to push, as a matter of policy in the United States, a two-state solution where the Palestinian people have a state side by side with Israel, that they're secure within their borders, and a variety of other conditions. But right now, I don't know that. I do know that this administration isn't open to listening to that. Ukraine is a little bit different. Again, absolutely agree in terms of civilians being targeted by Russian bombs. Russia illegally invaded Ukraine, illegally annexed parts of Ukraine, which I do not recognize as parts of Russia. They're still Ukraine. They're still part and parcel of Ukraine. And Ukrainian people have been targeted by Russian military. That's why I support the strong NATO response that we've seen over the last 3.5 years, and I'll continue to do that. I also think the administration's kind of backwards on the help to giving Ukrainian people. We now naturally countries in Europe have seen more Ukrainian refugees than the United States has, but we've seen our share of Ukrainian refugees come to the United States, and Washington State is actually a major destination, and there's a historical reason for that. And we need to continue to support Ukrainian refugees into the United States, provide them the support they need while we continue to try to make Ukraine whole again, and help Ukraine become a place where these refugees can return to, and they want to go home, and I want to support them to go home when it is okay and safe to go home. This administration, though, is trying to cut that timeline shorter and forcing Ukrainians to leave the United States and upend their lives again. So Edison Cooper, I really appreciate how you worded your question, because these are two areas in the world where a lot of civilians are getting hurt. And another place, South Sudan, and it doesn't get in the news a lot at all. Well, hardly at all in the United States. There's a major refugee crisis in South Sudan, the United States ought to be the country that steps up to help people in the world when there's refugee crises. With a lot of our international partners, our international NGO, non-governmental organizations, step up to help, but this administration is pulling back from that. I would note too that, and the reason I'm passionate about this, I was just at a naturalization ceremony last week where I helped swear in 21 new U.S. citizens from 15 different countries, including Ukraine, including Afghanistan, including Liberia and Nigeria, as well as from the UK, and one from the UK and one from France, I mean from everywhere. It was a very emotional experience for me to see this group of people want to become citizens of the United States. And I know that sometimes I can be very critical of the actions of our governments, but I can be critical of sometimes of the country that I am a citizen of here in the United States. But one, that's my right, that's free speech, and we get that opportunity. But we also are a country people still want to come to, and we should be really proud of all of that. Which is why I'm really, really trying to stay focused on how can we help folks who are getting here to the United States stay here until they can return home, or if they're here, they're contributing, they're paying taxes, they're active in their community in some shape or form. How can we help them continue to contribute to the health and wealth of the United States?
Thank you, Congressman Larsen. Our next question comes from Elif, who is watching online, and he asks, what will you do to help assure funding for libraries and educational institutions?
Thanks for the question. So you all might be aware, some of you might be aware, the administration has been trying to cut a variety of programs that Congress has actually approved and funded. And this president signed when he was president, and President Biden signed when he was president. And so one of those is the Institute of Museum and Library Services. This helps local libraries in their ability to offer services like public Wi-Fi. If you use the Libby app, L-I-B-B-Y, the Libby app through your local library, some libraries themselves, some larger systems like Everett pays for that. But for smaller library systems, like in the San Juans or in Skagit County, the state, with the help of these dollars from the Institute of Museum Library Services, helps pay for that online access to books. And so you can expand the ability of folks to check out books. I've been a strong supporter, was active in getting that money reinstated, the federal money reinstated for the IMLS. I visited 11 libraries this year, and to show my support for libraries as a person who grew up every Wednesday going to the library with my 7 brothers and sisters to get our new books, check out new books, and return our books in Arlington at the Arlington Public Library, and the old one in Arlington, not the one where it is now, although the new one, the one where it is now is an old one now. So libraries hold a special place for me because they're about education, they're about freedom of education, they're about freedom of speech, they're about spreading knowledge, and also they're about taking people away somewhere. When you check out a book, you're taken somewhere else in that book by reading it and seeing the stories. Also, there's a great program the Library of Congress has called the Surplus Book Program, and through that Surplus Book Program, we've donated almost 400 books to local libraries throughout the district from the Library of Congress, and we get to choose those titles for libraries. We tend to focus on children and young adult titles, as well as titles that are in languages that people speak in the district. Spanish, for instance, we found one book in Punjabi. There's a population in North Whatcom County, that group of folks that speak Punjabi at home. We're looking for Ukrainian language books as well, because of a large Ukrainian population in the district, and a variety of others. So we're trying to really do our part to continue to show, not just through fighting for the money for the libraries, but also taking action to show support for the role that libraries play in our education. And on that last point of education, I'll just note that I was active in getting the $6.8 billion federal money reinstated that the administration wanted to cut from the Department of Education. That resulted in millions of dollars being freed up for our local school districts, including, like, for instance, over $1 million for the Everett School District, just as an example. So continuing to fight for those dollars for our local libraries and local school districts. Thanks. So I think this is going to maybe be the last question. We're hitting 9:39, and before we get there, Pam, I just want to, at one point we had about 16,000 people between the Facebook Live, Instagram Live, and the telephone. So thank you all for turning out tonight. I appreciate it. Pam?
Yes, unfortunately, this is the last question that we have time for. Carissa on Instagram asks, how can we protect autistic people against the latest onslaught of tragic misinformation and instead promote neurodiversity affirming services and information?
Thanks, Carissa. I do think it's important that everyone understand where the science is. And the RFK Jr. at the Department of Health and Human Services is not where the science is. The comments he and the president are making about people with autism or people on the spectrum somewhere are false. They're misleading. Some are false, some are misleading, and it resulting in decisions coming out of this administration that is detrimental to folks and to folks with autism and their families as well. So I would just really encourage everyone to certainly take with a grain of salt, unfortunately, what you're hearing from the top healthcare official in our country. He is not mainstream, and people can be not in the mainstream and still support the science. He doesn't even support the science that's out there. And so I really want to encourage you all to really think through when RFK Jr. speaks, kind of start to ask some questions about the veracity or the truthfulness of what science says, and not just yesterday's science that came out yesterday, but like long-term longitudinal studies that take place over time to determine the safety and efficacy of treatments and of drugs and so on. I've written, been on letters with other members of Congress to push back against the statements he's made about vaccines, statements he's made about autism. So I'm doing my part, and I hope that you can support me in doing that. But I need you all to do your part as well. And it's not just one grain of salt; it's probably several grains of salt that you'll need to take if you're listening to the top healthcare official in the country speak, because I don't think he's qualified to do it. And so we've just got to double check everything he says. So that was the last question, and I just want to thank everyone for who joined the town hall on the phone as well on social media. I appreciate all you participating in your democracy on this Monday night. If I didn't get to your question, go to Larsen, and that's Larsen, L-A-R-S-E-N, larsen.house.gov/contact, and get in touch with my office. And again, it's larsen.house.gov/contact. If you want to stay up to date on the work I'm doing for you in Congress, the best way is to follow me on social media. The username on Facebook is Representative Rick Larsen, and on Instagram it's Rick Larsen, and that's all one word. Thanks for joining me again tonight, and I'll turn it back over to Pam Larkin to close.
Thank you, Congressman. Thank you all again for taking the time to join Representative Larsen. If we did not get to your question this evening, you can leave a voicemail with the Congressman's office after the event, or go to larsen.house.gov/contact to get in touch with the office. A recording of this town hall will be available on Representative Larsen's Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube pages. And with that, have a good rest of your evening.